Greetings, and thank you for joining us this morning or this afternoon or whatever time it is, wherever you are, if you're connecting online. My name is Giulia. I'm the Advocacy Coordinator here at UISG, the International Union of Superiors General, and I'm delighted to be your moderator this morning. A couple of technical points. If you're joining us online, interpretation is available in 4 languages: Italian, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. If you have any trouble connecting with the interpretation, which should be available via the globe icon in your bottom right-hand corner, you can contact our technician via the chat. And with regard to interpretation, just a reminder to all our wonderful speakers this morning to speak slowly, otherwise the interpreters can't keep up and we make their job much harder. I think that's all, and again, you can reach out to the technician via the chat. Potete contattare per qualsiasi evenienza il nostro tecnico se non riuscite ad accedere all'interpretazione.
You can contact our technician if you can't access the interpretation.
Una mano a través de la chat. Podéis escribirle directamente ahí. So, without further ado, allow me to present Sister Mary John Kudiyiruppil, who is the Associate Executive Secretary here at UISG. Sister Mary John will open the introductions for us. Thank you, Sister. Over to you.
Very good morning to all of you. The International Union of Superiors General is very happy to welcome you, esteemed guests, to this event titled Responding to Climate Change as a Health Crisis. We feel privileged to welcome the distinguished guests and officials of the German Embassy to the Holy See, of the German Climate and Health Alliance, of Caritas International, of the Union of Superiors General, and the Joint Commission of JPIC. The UISG, which is the International Union of Superiors General, is a membership organization at the service of the Superiors General of women's religious congregations. It has a membership of around 2,000 members. We have several projects, but one of our most cherished projects is Sowing Hope for the Planet. We are very happy that you have come, and we wish you, those present here and those joining online, a very fruitful morning of lively and engaging conversation around this important topic. Cordial welcome to the keynote speaker, Dr. Martin Herrmann, and all the speakers, and also the moderator, Giulia, and all of you who feel called to join hands in concerted action to promote the health of humanity and that of our common home. I am sure the discussions and the deliberations of this morning, coming as they do from a scientific, health, and faith perspectives, will certainly shed light on the various nuances of this topic. Thank you for coming. You are all most welcome. And I would like also now to lead this assembly through a brief prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Loving God, we thank you for gathering us in your name and for your faithful presence in our midst. As we seek ways to work together for a healthier world, continue to lead us with your wisdom and the gift of perseverance. Bless the work we embark on with insight, clarity, shared commitment, and fruitful progress. May our discussions and decisions contribute to making this earth and our lives on it healthier, happier, and more caring towards one another. We entrust this journey to you, knowing that with your hand upon it, it will be led in the right direction. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Once again, a warm welcome to each of you.
Thank you so much, Sister. To continue with our introductions, I'm delighted to present Minister Christoph Braner from the German Embassy to the Holy See. It's been a real pleasure for UISG to collaborate with the German Embassy on their Rome Climate Talks, a series of events that represents the framework for today's gathering in the lead up to COP. This collaboration has been a very galvanizing experience both last year and this year. So thank you for joining us. Over to you, Minister.
All right, thank you so much. The technical world is not really always mine, but as we have heard, we have a great technician here. Gianluca will help everybody outside who has a technical problem, and thank you very much for helping me here. I don't really want to repeat very much of what has been said, and I don't want to take time away from our experts. I just would like to thank the UISG and Caritas for the cooperation we're doing this year. As Giulia pointed out, this is the second time we're working together. And for us at the German Embassy to the Holy See, the third time we are hosting Rome Climate Talks. And I would just like to limit myself to say two words about what this series of events is. We have, as you might know, climate change and climate policy, international climate policy is very important for the German government and has been very important during the previous government, but still continues also under a new leadership in February. We have been hosting climate talks together with our two other sister embassies here in Rome, one the embassy to the state of Italy and the other one to the FAO and other international organizations. And this is a collaborative effort for all of us. Our job is to bring voices together that might not have found together otherwise. And that's why I'm very, very glad and honored that we have been able to bring the keynote speaker into the fold. And a very, very special welcome to Dr. Herrmann, who will also be part of a second event tomorrow at the residence of our embassy, and I'm very grateful that you're here. On the topic itself, just one little message. We have seen that there's a lot of dimensions for climate change, and we are only change and is threatened by climate change worldwide. Of course, most in the global south, but also here, and it's visible and noticeable everywhere. And I think this has been not understood well enough, and I hope that today, and I'm confident that today, we'll have another step to fostering a better understanding of this the importance of this issue. Thank you very much. And I hope we have a great discussion over the next two hours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister. So to complete our introductions, we turn now to Dr. Giulia Amerio, who is Senior Health Officer at Caritas Internationalis. Dr. Amerio will present a brief overview of the survey on climate change and health that has been conducted by Caritas across its national networks. We're very grateful to Caritas and to Dr. Amerio for sharing some of the valuable insights and reflections from this research. So thank you for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you, Giulia, for giving me the floor. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all, especially those that are connected online. On behalf of the Director of Integral Human Development Department, Victor Genina, as well as our Secretary General, Mr. Dutton, I extend the warmest greetings. As you know, Caritas Internationalis is a confederation of more than 160 national Caritas relief, development, and social service organizations. Caritas promotes integral human development and integral ecology by serving, accompanying, defending, and listening to people living in poverty, with together caring for our common home. Now, under the health desk, with the support from the desk of climate justice and food security, and also with the support of our health working group and our working group on climate justice, we launched a survey on health and climate change in July, and we have received responses from all the regions. The focus of the survey was to collect both experiences and concerns on the intersection between health in the context, in the section of health in the context of climate change. All the responses clearly show a strong awareness of the importance of the issue among those working in the field, as well as of the need to start, or better, to continue a conversation about the topic. Additionally, among many who are not directly involved in programs at the crossroads of health and climate change, there is the desire to be involved in the conversation, recognizing its significance and importance. In the survey responses within the key issue addressed in health-related program in the context of climate change, some notably tackled health, but also its determinants. There were topics such as, just to name the few because we had received many responses, for example, malnutrition caused by excessive droughts or crop failure, or floods with contaminating drinking water sources, waterborne diseases following floods, very important psychosocial support and mental health related to climate change, extreme weather events, and climate-induced displacement. As well, for example, programs related to the awareness and behavioral change education on heat protection or the importance of women's health. There were examples of trainings on the link between health and climate change, and example of other activities including climate resilient agriculture, for example, implementation of disaster risk reduction programs, projects, more broadly caring for the environment and for ecology. Protecting and supporting the livelihoods of poor and marginalized households, WASH programs, agroecology approaches. In fact, health issues related to climate change are approached from various angles, with the growing awareness that action or inaction in climate mitigation and adaptation will also affect the health. In the survey, there was a part dedicated to reflections, so I'm going to share some of the reflection with you. I repeat, there are just some examples. For example, one national Caritas was saying that they were very concerned about the issue of waste and environmental pollution in general, especially the pollution of clean water sources, which directly impacts human life. Another national Caritas expressed, for example, concern about the low community awareness of health risks associated with climate change, the fragile health infrastructure that is easily overwhelmed by climate-related events, or weak early warning and response systems that could prevent disease outbreaks after disaster, and also the issue of limited funds available. Environmental protection was a huge issue among the concerns, and also another organization, for example, shared that they were more explicitly considering climate change in their health programs, both to reduce their own carbon footprint, but also supporting communities to respond to and be more resilient in the face of climate change. So we are aware that this conversation is essential in the Caritas Confederation for several reasons, including also the sharing of good practices to help find a more effective solution for everyone, and also because with a united voice, we can advocate for the urgent need to act on the health impacts of climate change. We are all well aware that climate change is not just an environmental issue, it is a public health issue, and I think Dr. Herrmann will explain to us more about that. And I add that, as we know, environmental and human fragility often they go hand in hand, so it is also a question of justice. And I think that the cost of inaction will be a heavy toll on human life. Now, let me just conclude with something from the Laudato Si, from our Pope Francis, and he was saying, we are faced not with the two separate crises, one environmental and the other social, the Pope writes, but rather with one complex crisis, which is both social and environmental. So let's remind ourselves that everything is interconnected. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amerio, for this overview. And I think we've already touched upon what might be one of the key topics for today's conversation, which is the sense that as Caritas has seen, the effects of climate change as a health crisis are already being seen on the ground. We're seeing displacement, disease, issues with access to water, huge mental health burdens, and yet somehow, as the Minister was reminding us earlier, the issue doesn't seem to have quite made its way into the spotlight for kind of global advocacy and as a kind of global political topic as well. So with that in mind, I think we have a great framework for today's conversation, and it's my great pleasure then to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Martin Herrmann. Dr. Herrmann is the co-founder and the chairman of the German Alliance on Climate Change and Health. He's a physician by training who has focused his work on systemic transformation in global health settings. He's consulted with organizations including the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and the Vaccine Alliance, Gavi. We're delighted that Dr. Herrmann has been able to join us here in Rome to share his perspective. And Dr. Herrmann, the floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very touched, actually, to be here. And all the key things are already in the room. What you're saying in your last words, also quoting Laudato Si, you cannot separate the environmental and the social aspects. It's a key question of our time. And you also have to learn newly what interconnectedness actually means and how we can relate to it when we are acting. Because that's a key question of the whole topic. And I think we are all painfully aware of it, that so far on a global scale, we have not been up to the task. So the question is, how can we get more up to the task? How do we understand better? And that's also going to be the topic of my talk, to perhaps give you a perspective which will encourage you to be bold and go to the things where it is most difficult and find ways to move forward individually, on a community level, on a regional level, on a global level. That's kind of my hopes that I can do that. Now, I start with this picture here. And that's a picture of a vigil we did pretty much exactly 7 years ago in Germany, in the center of Berlin, just in front of Charité. It's the biggest hospital and very prestigious hospital of Germany. So why did we do this vigil? We wanted to point to that climate change is the biggest threat to health of our time. And it's not just coming in the future, it's happening now, as we have heard from Giulia right now. It's the biggest threat to health of our time. Now, when we did this vigil, it was not yet a priority of the German health sector. It was not a subject on conferences. It was not a subject in the curricula for medical students or nursing students. It was pretty much not present. There were a few niche players working on it, but this is not enough when you have the major threat to humanity on the table. Now, interestingly enough, we did this for 1 week, day and night. And there were some resonance from the people who were passing by, but we had a press conference and no one came. So in one level, it was not a success. On another level, doing it together changed our own perspective, our own bonding, and our own way of telling the story. Because if you're in your white coat and in front of an intense healthcare simulation where the planet is the patient, it's very easy actually to explain what it is about. It is an emergency. And as medical professionals, what do we do when there is an emergency? We go there. What is part of our profession is we go where it is difficult. We listen for with patients, what is the difficult things? What are you not willing to talk about? We go where it is difficult, and we stay when it is getting more difficult. What kind of doctor would it be if there's an emergency and you say, oh, it looks difficult, I better go away to play a round of golf? This would be devastating. So it's really important, and in a way, what you also see on the picture is empathy. The higher is the risk. It's not getting less, it's getting more. The window is rapidly closing. He means the window of times that we have, and we know very well in medicine, when you have an accident, when you have a sepsis, when you have a heart attack, you have a time where you intervene. When you're not intervening, the organs will fail. So he's saying the window is rapidly closing. Linear change is no longer an option. The only option is exponential change. We know the only currency that matters is speed and scale. We need to recognize from local to global levels that we are all intertwined. We have heard it just before from the Laudato Si, that we must govern the entire planet. We must govern our home. We must take care of our home. So that's what the earth scientists are saying. And we see it. The consequences of heat and flooding and other things are coming faster than the scientists were predicting. They're happening all over the planet. So, and the reaction to it yet is not mature enough. Next slide. That's just very clear. Temperature is rising, CO2 levels are rising. Fossil fuel burning continues to rise. So we know what is kind of creating the mess, and we are continuing to destroy the planet. Next slide. So that's just another perspective. You know the concept of planetary boundaries, which is looking at the 9 key Earth system, kind of Earth systems that we can measure, and they are trying to understand where do we need to be in order to be in a safe operating space, to be safe, where is a mild risk, an increasing risk, and where is a high risk zone. And in 7 of the 9 planetary boundaries, we are now either in increasing risk or in the high risk zone already, moving to the right. And interestingly enough, that's again done by Johann Rockström and his colleagues of the Potsdam Institute of Climate Research in Potsdam in Germany. They are using now planetary health. Why? Because they know that health is very strongly it's much better narratives than if you're using not just climate or other things, or the physics. Yeah? So that's why they have started to actually work on it. And one of the leaders of the Potsdam Institute for Climate Research is actually one of the co-founders of Klug, of our organization. So we are really moving into the wrong direction, and we all know one of all the risks that we have learned in the last years is the risk of tipping points. Because sometimes you have an Earth system, it's going more to the risk zone, and then it flips to a state where it doesn't come back. And you can then also have domino effects between the different tipping points. So there are additional risks that we don't know yet when they will materialize, but it's riskier than we expected 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. Next slide. So now we come to the health aspects. And here we just look at climate change and the health risks. Now you need to make it a bigger picture, because the other things like water and biodiversity and nitrogen and phosphor and ocean acidification and all of it are also there, and they have also influence. And you also see, if you look at it, you see that all that Giulia reported is in there. So you have the direct effect, storms, drought, fire, flood, heat wave. You have indirect effects kind of on the water quality. Now, it's not just the climate crisis that changes the water quality, it's also pollution. It's also other things. It's biodiversity, air pollution. Again, you have impact from many other effects. Decreasing food safety. It's one of the key concerns that we already have. And of course, the most vulnerable populations are the most hidden by it. Ecological changes, biodiversity. Then the social dynamics. Age and gender play a role. Poverty. The most vulnerable populations are the ones who are hit first. And that's why it's also a question of social justice. We have overloading healthcare system that already are in a weak position. Now you have a storm or an extreme weather event, they're devastated, they can't function any longer. We have armed conflict in many places in the world, not just between countries, also within countries. You have forced migration. You have hundreds of millions of people who are not safe at the place where they are. You have a lot of pressure to move to other things. And what does it do? What is a health impact? It's actually a health impact on all the organs. All the disciplines need to rewrite their books. You have many illnesses. They're not even, the whole list is not even there. Of course, in addition to mental illness, undernutrition, poisoning, allergies, you have also renal diseases, you have skin diseases, you have urological diseases. All kind of diseases are intensified by kind of these changes that are coming on a planetary scale. So all medical disciplines need to rewrite their textbooks, need to rewrite their practice, need to learn how to integrate it in a fashion that they're up to what is now the challenging, the biggest challenges for our patients. I don't want to go deeper into it because you have heard it all before and we'll hear it more on other sides. So it's a very clear picture, and for example, in Germany, we have managed to now get all the medical associations on board, all the scientific associations on board. They're all having their own working groups. The deeper they go, the more they see how it works out. You could also draw a whole draft on what is happening around heat, and again, all organs have a problem with it. All people are at risk. It's very important to take that with you. Next slide. Now, we are not in a world where reason and care are kind of the priorities. So I'm just pointing to the Global Risk Report of the World Economic Forum. It's clearly done by people who consider themselves as being severe capitalists. Yeah? So what are they seeing as the biggest risk for our societies? Number one risk in the short-term 2-year horizon is disinformation, misinformation and disinformation. Then you have extreme weather events, state-based armed conflict, societal polarization, and so on and so forth. So they are seeing that the disinformation campaigns that we are having today is a huge risk. And we need to be aware when we work on what we are working on that we have real armies of disinformation players who want to disinform, who want to lie in order for us not to do the reasonable things that we have to do. There's also a lot of lobby interests and hundreds of millions being spent by industry who want to continue business as usual and not do the things that actually will save the life of millions and care for more justice. So it's very important not to be naive what we are up against. The long-term perspective, what you see, the number 4, the 4 biggest risk in the 10-year horizon is all green. Yeah? Even the capitalists are seeing these are the biggest risk for our civilization. So it's important to bear that in mind. It's also clear that when we move into the direction we have to move in, it's economically the best thing you could do because destroying the base for economy is completely crazy. Next slide. So now we have seen where we are. We have seen how it is a health issue, the biggest health issue of our time. Now the question, and we are seeing that we are not moving fast enough. You have Laudato Si, you have all the scientific reports, you have all kind of the meetings in the world, the COPs and everything. Action is not yet at the scale where it would have to be. So the next part, or the last part of my talk is all about how can we even imagine that we could strategically win the game? How can we imagine that? How can we act together? How can we consider that a transformation on the community side can be the point where a change starts that goes global afterwards? And as the studies for Earth systems tipping have started 10 years ago, about 6-7 years ago, there's also the studies of social tipping, because it was clear from the scientists that if we not have nonlinear kind of positive tipping, we will not be able to make the necessary changes. If we cannot consider it, if we cannot be more strategic and intentional about moving there, it will not work. So it's very important that we consider how this transformational change can occur and how we could be triggering social tipping dynamics for the planet, for our home. And here you see New York 1900s. There's one car, and all the others are no cars. They're driven by horses. 1913, the same street, all cars, one driven by horses. So within 13 years, a huge change. And we all have seen things like this. 30 years ago, a smartphone was completely not imaginable. Now, everyone has one, and the world has changed through it. So sometimes things go really fast. Next slide. It's another way of looking at it. What does it take to get to a pandemic? How many infections? How does a pandemic start? With 1. How does transformational change start? With 1. So again, you have a non-linear dynamics that leads to something. And it's very difficult for us as humans to understand the non-linear dynamics, how fast it can go, and how convincing it can be, and how it can be like a wave. We have seen it with the pandemic, so the question is, can we also foresee it and trigger it for positive change? And what we can take, the words from the pandemic, how can we create hotspots, Could this today be a hotspot for spreading the message on a global scale, because we have people listening and participating from all over the planet, and many of you have huge networks of players? Who are the multi-spreaders we can invite to join our movement? What are pathways that are improbable, but perhaps the ones that lead us to somewhere? How can we have narratives and actions that go viral because they are so convincing? So it's important to play with these things, because it's clear if we just do it the way we have learned, or what the scientists from the last 100 years have told us, this is not going to work. We need to have a new perspective to this. Next slide. So this is from the Global Tipping Report. The Global Tipping Report, which was done the second time this year. It was presented. Energy systems, how much is going to the regenerative sector? It's now more than 90%. And this is something we haven't really captured. I give you one example. A good friend of mine has a hotel in Zambia. And I've talked with him for many years. When is the time when you are changing to a microgrid to regenerative energy? Now he told me 2 years ago, oh my God, we have so many blackouts and it's so difficult and I have to do all these generators and using diesel and so on and so forth. Now he has shifted last year. The payback time for his microgrid is 2 years. So this is happening now in many, many, many places. So it's very important that we see that this positive change is happening, and it can go much faster, because that's the only question that we have. Is the curve like this, or is it steeper, or is it being slowed down? And it's important to see that this turnaround is a turnaround. It's the biggest health project of our time, because if you are not doing these things, health will be impacted in a very fast measure. Now, with regard to nature-positive farming, agroforestry, sustainable diets, we are not yet there. We're more in the beginning, but of course it's highly important that we are not only looking where are we already tipping, but where are the things that we prepare to get to the tipping point. And in that case, all the things that we're doing in the different fields that lead to more understanding, more confidence, more possibility are important also when you are not yet reaching the broader public. Next slide. So we have worked with the key scientists on the positive social tipping in Germany in the last 6, 7 years. And we have tried to work with this in Germany. And what you see here with regard to heat resilience, we started 3 years ago to see that another report is not enough. Reports are good, but they are not shifting things on the ground. So what we are starting to do is going to 2 or 3 of the countries within Germany to build heat health action coalitions with all the players together. And we started in the places, we learned how it works, and we included more people to join and more institutions to join. And in a way, what we were seeing is that a lot of these institutions are actually waiting for someone to give them an orientation frame within which they can act. What is the key virtues that we are using when we are working there is, and it's even we have written it down in sentences with 7 key things. And the first one is, we take responsibility for heat protection. We take responsibility. What kind of responsibility is this? It's a responsibility we already have, but are ignorant to. And in a way, through this, we have now, in the first year when we had a kind of action on a German scale, we had 4 institutions supporting it. And the next year we had 50 already representing most of it. In the third year we had more than 100. So we are now scaling this, and I say we are already beyond the trigger point. Engagement of health sector. 6 years, 7 years ago, we were at nothing. Now we have all the board members of the relevant organizations working on it, supporting it. We have action groups in all the different professional groups. So in a way, we have really reached all the sector. Have we reached all the millions of health workers yet? No, but many, many of them, and we are scaling educational programs and implementation programs on all different levels. Now, what you see with the engagement of politics and society for planetary health, there's still work to do because still most politicians and most others are not understanding it yet. Next slide. I have to go faster through it because my time is almost over, but what is very important that when you work on a subject like the transformation of the energy sector, it's very important to see that you have multiple wins. You not just have win with regard to the energy system, you limit climate change, which means you sustain habitability of our planet as basis for health. It's a way out of fossil fuels dependency and gives you security. For example, the Ukraine is surviving because they have shifted to regenerative energy and also to battery packs because their big power plants have all been destroyed. That's an example why it gives you more security. And it is very profitable in the sustainable business models, and it gives you regional jobs. So it's very important to see, once you get into it, the wins are not just small, they're all over the scale. So it's very important to bear that in mind. Next slide. Food system, very important that we move into it because it's not just important for climate, it's also a key thing for all the other planetary boundaries. If we are not tackling the food and agricultural system, we will not make it. It's very, very important to bear that in mind. Again, when we move into it, what we will win is huge and dramatic. Next slide. Oh, this is a bit different than what I thought. So, initiating social tipping. What can you do? Take the questions with you. Where are the powerful tipping opportunities in your environment? Who in your network can be a multi-spreader for planetary health actions? Which stories, ideas can spread, go viral? Which improbable coalitions can you build? Can health and religion coalitions have tipping potential? And I would say, yes, it can. If you put the two things together, you have improbable actors to taking the lead. People are not expecting it. So if we are jointly taking the lead, this can be a huge thing. The role of our lived virtues. Why are these things spreading? Because you have not enough players who live this, and if you live this, it's very convincing and engaging. Next slide, and last slide. Very important. At the end of the day, implementation happens on community level or it doesn't happen. That's the last mile. That's where it really has to go. Does it mean that the other levels are not important? They're very important because they are influencing it. But at the end of the day, we need to reach the community level. And it's also very important to see that also on the community level, you have these things of tipping. If you go back, please. You have these things of tipping in the community level. So all the things that we have seen before are all happening in one community, different in another community. So you have similarity and difference, but it's very important to bear that in mind. Funding is important, but not decisive. What we have learned also in Germany, for a lot of the things we have been doing, for example, with heat, we didn't have any funding. And what I've learned is more than 50% of what really needs to happen. It doesn't cost money. It comes from a different education. It comes from different relations. It comes from integrating it into existing programs. Of course, we need to have money, but it's not the main thing. And the last responsibility for our home, community, and planet. When you speak to this, it is a very strong thing because we already have this responsibility to take care of the gift that has been given to us. And we are seeing when we are speaking to this, a lot of people are responding. Not all of them, but many of them. So thank you. The last slide. This is from my garden. This is my youngest grandchild, Johanna. And this is from the island of Elba, the home of my wife, a sunset 1 month ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Herrmann, for that stirring and also hopeful presentation. I think the medical analogy is so clear, and for me, certainly, it's very clarifying. If we imagine the planet as a human body, then with a body we recognize very intuitively that when we see an emergency, we act. And we act with urgency because we understand that there's a window of time for useful action before organ failure and before death. And frankly, the idea of our leaders, who should be our physicians in this analogy, playing golf while our planet's organs shut down is enough to fill me with righteous rage and hopefully to fill us all with a desire to act and to act with urgency. Thank you very much for highlighting as well that things can and do move fast when change does start to happen. And for me, internalizing a belief in the non-linear dynamics of positive change is a challenge that I will be taking away as homework. So we're going to take 2 minutes to absorb and reflect on what we've heard. This is a habit that we like to practice at UISG because we know that we're all so busy and exposed to so much information, especially via our screens for those who are following online. And we know that taking time to let ideas sink in is a vital part of the work that we're doing. So I'll give us 2 minutes to have a drink of water or make any notes or just appreciate Dr. Herrmann's wonderful contribution. Thank you. See you in 2 minutes. To turn to the next stage of this gathering, during which we'll be hearing some reflections from the distinguished guests who have kindly joined us, both in person and online. Our first contributor to this section is Maureen Goodman, who is the Programme Director at Brahma Kumaris UK. She's also the Brahma Kumaris representative at the United Nations and has led delegations at COPs, both on climate change and on biodiversity. Maureen, we're honoured that you could join us today. Over to you.
Good morning to everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. And as well as Brahma Kumaris, also representing the Women, Climate and Faith Network. And of course, some of what I wanted to say, Dr. Herrmann has said, but that's, of course, right. But yes, agree. And Dr. Herrmann has stressed the urgency of the situation. And we know that this ecological crisis is already manifesting in a number of health risks, from heat-related deaths, respiratory diseases, mental health, and also during and after extreme weather events, research has shown that the rates of domestic and sexual violence against women increases significantly. So there are so many aspects. Health professionals and faith communities are usually the first responders at times of crisis, and are also continuously dealing with the ongoing effects of climate change on health. Health professionals can and do play a role in advising patients of the health risks of climate change and also promoting, therefore, better health outcomes. And of course, they play a role in policy advocacy, as has been mentioned. But also, in addition, faith communities play a role in giving spiritual support. Climate anxiety is now a recognized syndrome, especially amongst young people. And when there is poor mental health, then we tend to make poorer choices for our own health and for chemicals and microplastics. Digesting a disproportionate amount of processed foods leads to stress on our organs. Eating excess meat and dairy also causes many diseases. Been a lot of research in that area. So by changing our lifestyle to a simpler plant-based diet, we can drastically reduce these environmental effects and, of course, greatly improve our health in the process. Many solutions are possible. In India, the Brahma Kumaris have been using yogic farming methods to help farmers improve their lifestyles, their health, and their mental health. The farmers meditate in the fields at each stage of the crop development, when the seeds are sown, when the shoots come, and as the crop grows. And it uses organic farming methods, natural methods. And research has shown the impact of this method. Production of highly nutritious food, which controls disease. Increased output of nourishing crops produced with minimum expenditure. Increased crop production while keeping the productive capacity of the land intact, and higher nutritional value and energy content. And if you know much about what the farming community in India has been through, this is very significant. And now thousands of farmers at the moment in Gujarat and Maharashtra are taking up these methods. So it's now crucial for all of us, including governments and corporations, to make choices which have the well-being of humanity at heart, rather than greater financial and political gain. We must move from greed to sharing, from selfishness to love. Considering the spiritual values that could bring about change in our awareness, attitude, and action brings us hope. The Brazilian government, which is hosting COP30, has initiated the Global Ethical Stocktake, which asks us to consider the ethical aspects of our decision-making. It aims to bring climate commitments closer to people's lives by encouraging communities, organizations, schools, companies, religious groups to host self-organized dialogues that reflect on the values, responsibilities, and actions needed for climate justice. These workshops are solution-based, visionary, and optimistic in their approach. And when I use that word optimistic, I always am reminded of Christiana Figueres, who pushed through the Paris Agreement, and she speaks of stubborn optimism. The Women and Faith Climate Network co-hosted, together with Project Dandelion, a workshop in London in June. And the participants, in fact, they've been happening on each continent. Pardon me? A couple of minutes, yes, nearly there. Participants described climate action as a relationship of responsibility, which Dr. Herrmann has spoken of. To act is to honor what we are part of, to respond not just to climate change, but to a deeper crisis of connection. And
Thank you so much, Maureen. It's always wonderful to hear from fellow members of the Women, Faith and Climate Network, of which UISG and Brahma Kumaris are both core members, and which might just be one of those super spreader entities that Dr. Herrmann was talking about earlier. So I'm very pleased to turn now to our other guest in the room, Mr. Daud Dash, who is the Executive Director of Caritas Bangladesh. Daud has been working with Caritas for 20 years, during which time he's focused on promoting integrated health interventions for climate resilience, disaster risk reduction, healthy nutrition, and particularly in disaster-prone and marginalized communities around the country. We're excited to learn how Caritas Bangladesh is responding on the ground to some of the challenges that we're discussing today. So we're going to hear Daud's presentation now. I know there's a video as well. I think we'll save that for later just to make sure everyone has time to share their reflections ahead of the Q&A. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the organizer, especially Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany, Caritas Internationalis, and all the organizer of this great event. Thank you also, Excellency Dr. Martin Herrmann, for your excellent keynote presentation for this climate change as a health crisis. Bangladesh is one of the most poorest country in the world, and also one of the most climate vulnerable country in the world. In a small land, more than 180 million people live. And Bangladesh is the most low-lying country in the South Asian part. So when there are floods, heavy rain in China, India, in Nepal, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, or surrounding country, the all water goes to the Bay of Bengal through Bangladesh. As here the China, India, Pakistan, Nepal, the most low-lying country, Bangladesh. So every year, 1/3 portion of the country goes under water. Every year, there are big cyclones. I can recall from history that in 1970, in one night, more than 500,000 people died due to a devastating cyclone. More than 1 million houses washed away. So you can imagine when more than 500,000 people in a night died due to a cyclone. And in 1991, more than 100,000 people died due to another cyclone. So I'm not a good speaker, but I would like to show you a video now. I would like to show you a video how climate change affecting the people living there in Bangladesh. So now I request to show that a video that affecting the poor people living in Bangladesh. So millions of people are being affected by cyclone, floods, salinity, river erosion, and other natural disaster as well.
I think we have a volume problem with the video, possibly. Perhaps it was just in the room. Hopefully those online can hear it well. Let's see if we can get it going for those in the hall too.
In preparation of the video, I can tell about some small perspective about Caritas Bangladesh. Caritas Bangladesh started it.
Imagine an 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer on a river 20 kilometers broad, flowing at 12 knots. No electricity.
I think now we had the opposite problem. Plenty of volume. Let's see if we can get it sorted in a couple of moments, and otherwise, yes, perhaps we'll turn to the presentation for now and watch the video a little bit later, but I think we're good to go.
Imagine an island of silt, 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, on a river 20 kilometers broad, flowing at 12 knots. No electricity, no schools, not even a shop, no transport other than an occasional weekly boat. No permanent infrastructure is possible here. Yet, over 2,000 climate migrants are trying to live and survive day by day on this very island, and millions of others throughout other islands in Bangladesh. Then comes the storms. The thin thatched roofs fly and the tin houses break. Their belongings wash away, and then the very land they are standing on starts to break away, taking away their lives if they cannot find a way to leave that piece of land. The land they once called home. There are people who have moved 40 times over their lifetimes. These are the climate fighters, adapting, migrating, then adapting again, day after day, year after year.
এই তো এখানে আমাদের বাড়ি ছিল 200-250 পরিবার এখানে বসবাস করতাম এখানে জমি ছিল বাড়ি ছিল কবরস্থান ছিল আবার ফের মাঠ ছিল স্কুল ছিল খেলার মাঠ ছিল এরা সব এই পানিতে চলে গেছে গা এরপরে ভাঙে চুরে সবাই এই জায়গায় কে কোথায় চলে গেল কারোর সাথে আর দেখা হলো না এখন যার মতো যেখানে আছে সে সেইভাবে চলে কিংবা খাইতেছে এই তো এখন সব নদী পানি এই যে ভাঙ্গে চূড়া এখন বালু আর বালু ফেলা থেকে গেছে এটা বসতই ছিল বন্যার সময় নাক পর্যন্ত তলায় যায় আমার বাড়ি আমার বয়সের কথা বলতে পারলাম না এই 88 বন্যার থেকে 19টা টানা দিয়ে আসছি এখন বর্তমানে 19 টানায় আসছি এতে এই পর্যন্ত আমি আসি হ্যাঁ যা
You have heard the story of one struggle, Salam struggle. There are hundreds and thousands of Salams who are living on these islands and on the shores of the Bay of Bengal. They are fighting for their survival daily. They are the frontliners bearing the impact of climate change. Just survive. Preservation of their life, to food, be it agriculture or fishing, to health, to hope and dignity. It is their life which is at stake daily.
এখন মনে করেন যে বন্যারও কোনো ঠিক নাই আমাদেরও কোনো ঠিক নাই একটা ফসল যে ফলাম ফসল ফলা কোনো শান্তি পাই না ওই ফসল ফলাই বন্যা এসে সেই ফসল ধুয়ে নিয়ে যায় ফসল খাওয়া যায় এই জন্য আমরা এখন কোনো কাজ করতে শান্তি পাই না এখন যখন যেটা পাই তখন সেটাই কাজ করে চলতেছি এই কুয়াশারও কোনো ঠিক নাই কুয়াশার মধ্যে একদিকে কাজে যাইতে পারি না
Bangladesh is the land of 1,000 rivers. Floods have always visited this land year after year because of the country's geographical and climatical conditions. Yet the present scenario is totally different. Floods are no longer predictable, for it happens 3, 4, even 5 times a year. This unpredictability in time and period of flooding causes huge loss to the economy and lives of people. Adapting to climate change is an everyday reality. This is why we started to work with climate-impacted communities long ago. Preparedness for disaster, we introduced an approach called CIDRR, Community-Initiated Disaster Risk Reduction. This approach was initiated to train and build capacity blended with indigenous knowledge and modern concepts, creating totally local solutions. Then we ensured relief and shelter for those like Salam. This was not enough.
এখন আমার বাড়িঘর সব ভাঙে চলে গেছে, ভাঙে যাওয়ার পর আমি এখানে একটু আশ্রয় পেয়েছি। এই আশ্রয় নিয়ে আমি এখানে ছেলে পেলে নিয়ে আর কি জোড়া করা সংসার করে খাইতেছি। এটি আমাদের আশ্রয়। আল্লাহ
সবজি আবাদ করে খাই, বাজারে বিক্রি করি, টাকা পয়সা ইনকাম করে অন্য জায়গায় খাটাই।
Our people are full of determination and hope. They face calamities valiant, be it floods, cyclones, river erosion. They are steadfast in their purpose. We will overcome every disaster. We will rebuild our houses. We will reshape our lives. They may not have our luxuries, but they have overwhelming courage and resilience. If we and our international partners take steps in supporting them and learning from them, borrowing some of their courage, the world will perhaps have more solidarity, more understanding, and we may find a new hope in our tomorrow.
Thank you. I have a small presentation, though small, it will take at least 10. Then I will try to reduce my time. Yeah. Climate vulnerabilities in Bangladesh. This is some information already I have talked about. And Caritas Bangladesh is working in Bangladesh since 1967. So it's before Bangladesh, when it disaster risk reduction, agriculture and livelihoods, and health and nutrition. So there are some impact on health due to the climate change, which are injuries and death due to extreme weather, respiratory problem due to air pollution, waterborne diseases from flood and water contamination, heat stroke, dehydration, and cardiovascular stress as well. And there are some indirect impact we see: malnutrition due to reduced food security and nutrition, lack of health care due to displacement, mental health impact from disaster, malaria, dengue for changes in weather as well. The climate impact are here already described, and life consequences as well through the video we have seen, and mental health impact also we understand all the mental health impact, including trauma, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, etc. So Caritas, when Caritas works, we also align our intervention with the policy and guiding documents below. There are National Mental Health Act, Bangladesh National Strategy on Internal Displacement Management, National Adaptation Plan focuses on health, food security, and displacement, and also we also follow Laudato Si, internal ecology, integral ecology and human dignity, and Caritas Internationalis strategic framework, resilience through solidarity guideline. So our integrated health intervention for climate resilience are climate resilient health facilities and services we provide, and also integration of health awareness in DRR and livelihood projects we have. Health workers, our health workers are trained, and they are providing the services due to the response of climate change. And we also work on promotion of safe water, sanitation and hygiene in disaster-prone communities. So our partners are victims of fire, building collapse, conflict-prone areas, and also displaced people who are internally displaced and forcibly displaced. At present, there are more than 1 million forcibly displaced Myanmar nationalists residing in Bangladesh in several camps in Cox's Bazar. And we are providing support to there, including health. We are providing wash, shelter, food support as well through our international partners. And also vulnerable people living in the rural and urban areas, including a person with disabilities, children, women, and old ages. We work there. Our workforces are throughout Bangladesh. We have right now 65 projects, and under these 65 projects, we have 3,000 plus staff members and around 5,000 volunteer. But in health, we have 50 plus HPSS professional and 121 barefoot counselor. And we also have the partners and collaboration with government and UN agencies there. And we work in collaboration with Bangladesh government and also UN agencies and different institutional partners there. We provide different types of services in Bangladesh, including social consideration and basic services, and also community and family support we provide. We also focused on non-specialized support and specialized support as well. It's a case that Sebakurunnesa Nahar, a 38-year-old Rohingya refugee are from Myanmar nationalists, those who are forcibly displaced and now residing in Bangladesh. And I have already told that more than 1 million Rohingya refugees are residing in Bangladeshi camp right now. And there are lots of trauma and stress with them, including sickness, worries, how to keep well, and how to run their family members. So in this situation, our health professionals providing counseling and other medical supports and serving the most vulnerable Rohingya community residing in Bangladesh right now. However, there are many challenges we see. The lack of community awareness, the first challenges, limited access to health services in disaster-prone regions, not only in disaster-prone regions, but also for all of our Bangladeshi citizens. I can say there is no health facilities at all. Even a 100-bed hospital, you will see 2,000 plus patients are there. So it's 100-bed, but 2,000 patients, even in front of toilet, in front of corridor, in front of hospital ground, everywhere the patients are lying. So it's not kinds of health services there exist, I can say. So, and also shortage of trained MHPSS personnel in rural communities, including urban, climate migration and lack of sustained livelihoods. Yeah, you see lots of thousands, millions of people are migrating from rural to urban, from urban to other countries, including Europe. Every month we see the newspaper and also observe that hundreds of Bangladeshi people are dying in Libya in the sea, coming to Italy and some other European countries. We experience every month hundreds of young people are dying in the sea. So there are some news, maybe I don't know actually, you know or not, but it's because of livelihood options. There is lack of livelihood options, and every after disaster, young people, all people, sometimes for survival issue, they migrate. And also insufficient funding for long-term resilience and health programs there. So due to fund crisis, less health programs are there. But we have scope for strengthening and collaboration, scaling up community-based health and climate resilience model there, expand mental health support networks and community healing initiatives, strengthen local government collaboration in DRR and health integration, research and documentation on climate health nexus. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daud, for your testimony. Thank you for giving us a sense of the interconnectedness that we've been talking about today, the connection between ecological and social crisis, and also the connectedness of all people on this planet. It's really wonderful to hear about the work that Caritas is doing in Bangladesh. And for me, I think it's also an opportunity to reflect on the fact that if those on the front lines depend on decisions that are taken in the halls of power, then they also depend in some small way on the action that we take to pressure those decisions and to ensure that they're the right ones. So with that in mind, we turn now to our online guests who have been kind enough to connect via Zoom and are hopefully ready to appear on the big screen behind us. First of all, we'll be hearing from Dr. Francis Kuria, who is here, I see, and who is the Secretary General of Religions for Peace International. Dr. Kuria has been working for 20 years to foster peace through interreligious dialogue, with a focus particularly on convening women, young people, and indigenous leaders to achieve a shared human flourishing that is rooted in the sacred. Dr. Kuria also serves as Secretary General of the African Council of Religious Leaders and Chair of the International Steering Group for the International Campaign to Ban Nuclear Weapons. Dr. Kuria, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so very much. Hello and warm greetings of peace to all of you. First, I want to thank the International Union of Superior Generals for convening this gathering and inviting us to this and to speak to you. I also want to thank Dr. Martin Herrmann for inviting me and getting in contact with me to get engaged, first of all, in the Planetary Health Alliance and also in these discussions here today. And I also wish to thank him for his very, very illuminating presentation that he has made today. It is really comprehensive and brings focus the issues that we are discussing. This is a timely discussion because the intersection of health and climate is quite clear, as Dr. Herrmann has put in, and also has been elucidated by the gentleman from Caritas, Bangladesh. On behalf of Religions for Peace, I offer a unique perspective on the role of faith communities in restoring planetary health. The challenges of planetary health are not solely ecological or environmental, but also reflect the impact on humanity. Consumption and waste are key issues for planetary health, driven by the behavior of humans, resulting in a detrimental effect on the environment and the quality of life of humans, the earth, and its web of life. And there are many examples to showcase how human behavior is causing untold suffering, waste, and detrimental effect. Just take New York alone. In New York, 3.9 million tons of food is wasted every year. 3.9 tons. And globally, food waste is responsible for significant production of greenhouse gases, particularly methane. Indeed, 6% of greenhouse gases are generated by food that is never eaten, food that has been harvested, food that is needed globally by many hungry people, but is not eaten, it is wasted. At the same time, much of the food discarded is edible, while countless people remain hungry and food remains expensive or inaccessible for a great number of the population globally. Food scarcity is a dominant issue affecting millions around the world. At the same time, the challenges of non-communicable diseases brought by unhealthy food consumption continues to grow. At the same time, climate change is depleting the sources of food by reducing the ecological arable land. It is decreasing the amount of herbs necessary for health for big percentages of communities, especially indigenous communities that require and use herbal medicine as their source of health. To address these issues and limit the people affected, change must come from a moral, ethical examination of success. We must redefine what success is as human beings. We must be defined by a connection to one another and to the earth. And success cannot be based solely on how much we can extract and accumulate from the earth's resources. We must look at our similarities and use them as a driving force for our interaction with earth, lessening our footprint and our effect on the earth. Our interactions with the earth should come from a place of interrelatedness, not from the materialistic idea that considered that relationship is transactional. Not everything must be transactional. When our actions are caring for the earth as opposed to using its resources for material gain. Not only are we carers, but we must also sustain and maintain expansive economic and civic outlooks to prevent the exploitation of the earth and other communities for resources. We must return the responsibility for planetary health to our individual choices, guided by the virtues and ethics of moral living. The virtues of compassion, wisdom, and honesty are vital in developing solutions that have a global impact while also making a difference in the lives of individual people. Such virtue ethics are critical in building the common good, a prerequisite for a healthy planet. Unless we focus on building the common good, then it is impossible to reverse the challenges of a collapsing planetary health and its effect on human health, including the emergence of pandemics and non-communicable diseases, lifestyle diseases, and all the polycrises of health that Dr. Herrmann highlighted for us today. The development of virtues and shaping of behavior to help restore planetary health is and will continue to rely heavily on the efforts of faith actors who hold position of trust and respect within their respective communities. Such, they play a vital role in redefining success in terms of moral and ethical principles. The virtues of forgiveness, self-sacrifice, and charitable service, especially charitable service, are shared across religions and can be used to foster solidarity in finding solutions, climate and health crisis, while also leaving room to find strength and solution in our worldview. We must use our various virtues, ethical virtues, in shaping a shared sacred worldview, a worldview that seeks telos of consummation with the mystery, with the sacred mystery. These principles serve as the heart of Religions for Peace shared sacred worldview. We in Religions for Peace wish the world to embrace shared sacred worldview, a manifestation for our unwavering commitment to environmental sustainability. By working with diverse faith communities to promote collaboration and provide space for faith communities to share their respective experiences of the sacred, we can move away from the modern reductionist worldview and recenter our lives on a sacred worldview. To put this in practical terms, we must put the sacred at the heart of our efforts, as our guiding light, our commitment to the flourishing all creatures, as the driving force that animates our efforts. When we put our loving care for each other and for the planet at the center, we can and will do well in the urgent work to heal our world and to heal our communities, one community at a time. We must heal our communities by working with the people within those communities to shape their lives around a shared sacred flourishing. Let us find strength in the role of each of us plays as caregivers for the earth, and to allow it to lead us into common action. We must work together and in tandem to overcome challenges to planetary health. The important point is working together across all faiths through collective efforts and embracing our diverse perspectives and understanding of the mysteries sacred. We can establish a future in which human behavior does not drive the decline of planetary health, but instead shapes a society of shared moral responsibility and shared prosperity. We can act together, but we must act with urgency. As Dr. Herrmann has put out very clearly, our world needs a new perspective, and we put forth the shared sacred worldview for a shared sacred flourishing as the perspective that is going to drive towards a world that is healed, a world that is leading to planetary health. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kuria, for touching on one of the core topics that have emerged today, this connection between our climate-driven health crisis and global food systems, a connection that exists around consumption and waste, around sustainable agriculture and access to water, and also around malnutrition and disease. And thank you as well for reminding us of our individual responsibility to find shared strength in collaboration. So we come now to our final speaker for this section, Reema Nanavaty, who is the director of the Self-Employed Women's Association of India, SEWA. As well as being another esteemed colleague within the Women, Faith and Climate Network, Reema has initiated SEWA's food security program, reaching over 1 million households, and its Green Energy and Livelihoods initiative, which provides access to renewable energies. She has nurtured many women-led enterprises and supply chains across India in the areas of green energy, agriculture, food processing, waste recycling, and textiles. And she's also led efforts to rebuild livelihoods in crisis-affected areas, particularly rural areas of Afghanistan and Sri Lanka. Reema, thank you so much for joining us and for being able to stay with us today.
Namaste. Today, I will speak here on behalf of our 3.2 million women workers in the informal economy of our country. And I'm very grateful to the International Union of Superiors General, the Women Climate and Faith Network, and Project Dandelion to bring me into this discussion, which is very, very important. Our founder, Ela Bhatt, said that poverty is a form of violence with the consent of the society. And this is further compounded by the increasing climate crisis that we are experiencing. As I speak today, we are experiencing a cyclone not seen in the last 174 years. And as Dr. Herrmann was suggesting that implementation has to happen at the community level, I would like to bring the voices of the communities into the room today. Let me talk about some of the construction workers that we organize. And one of our construction workers says that there's no roof above us, no shade to shield us. The tools we work with, handles made of metal, heat up so much that they burn our hands. The cement beneath our feet absorbs the heat, scorching us and leaving blisters. But we keep working because stopping means losing livelihoods. The heat is invisible as one of the climate crises, yet the impacts are brutal. It steals our health and dignity. We drink the same water used for mixing cement. We fall sick. Carry heavy loads until we feel dizzy, collapse and fracture our bones. For days we lose our wages and livelihoods. Heat may be silent, but its impact is devastating, robbing us of our strength, our income, and our future. Still, we rise each morning because survival cannot wait, laments the construction worker with whom I work. The heat steals our daylight and forces us to toil until 9 at night, says a fellow street vendor from the city, choke back tears. Usually I easily earn rupees 400, but during a heat stress or a climate stress, I barely manage rupees 200. It's a double blow for us. The heat beats down our heads while the ground itself burns beneath our feet, radiating heat. Even if we fall sick without income, I cannot go to seek treatment. This isn't just about our lost incomes, it's about the survival. And I think this is what I would like to emphasize here, that we often hear about climate change in abstract terms, rising global temperatures, melting ice caps. But for the 3.2 million informal women workers that I represent today in this August gathering, climate shock is not a distant threat. It is a brutal daily reality that chips away at their livelihoods, their health, and their very dignity. The data is stark. 90% of SEVA members, women working as street vendors, farmers, construction workers, home-based workers, salt pan workers have reported that their livelihoods are severely impacted by climate stress. Reduced work hours, dwindling customers, spoiled produce, their daily earnings are slashed by as much as 50%. 92% of members surveyed in 2023 suffered from illnesses during climate stress such as heat, prolonged heat, or excessive flooding. The adverse effects of this are on health are multifaceted. Heat leads to dehydration, emerges as a pressing concern due to limited availability of cooling environments, the shortage of water intake, and increased sweating. more vulnerable to serious health issues and complications. The result is that climate-related illness often result in increased out-of-pocket expenditures of medical treatment, further draining already limited financial resources of these poor women workers. The burden of extreme heat weighs heavily on the mental well-being. 40% members stated that constant stress of lost income, mounting debt, and inability to provide for their families breeds anxiety and despair. The daily stress of choosing between risking health or losing income fractures families and communities. The emotional toll surfaces in increased substance abuse and gender-based violence. We cannot just stop like this. But since 2022, SEVA members collectively resolved to focus on climate action as the central theme. We call it as Building Cleaner Skies. Our 3.2 million members are all now working on climate action for an earth where there is access to clean air, clean land, clean water, and clean energy for all generations to come. At SEVA, we know that health cannot be seen in isolation. For informal women workers, climate change, unsafe work conditions, and poverty form a single relentless chain. Our approach is therefore integrated, holistic, and women-led. We've built a cadre of over 400 health ambassadors, grassroots women trusted by their communities, to raise awareness about climate stress, heat stress, promote hydration, rest breaks, teach early symptoms recognition. We also work on prevention by introducing telemedicine services, free consultations, about 23,000 of them. As we generate real-time evidence, there's critical gap in reliable, gender-sensitive data on how climate shocks affect informal workers' health, livelihoods, and well-being. We are using sensor study on measuring temperature, humidity, body temperature, hydration status, physiological parameters, and even sleep patterns to quantify the hidden burden of climate stress, which build better early warning systems and set scientific thresholds for climate insurance triggers. We are also integrating mental health support into our climate programs. Healthcare is only one part of the solution. Financial resilience is equally critical because a single hospitalization can wipe out a family's savings. That is why SEVA pioneered a parametric climate insurance program covering 250,000 women. When temperatures cross a certain threshold, payouts are triggered automatically. There is no paperwork, no delay, just immediate cash relief so women can pay for medical bills, buy food, or repay loans. We are further integrating cyclone and excessive rainfall as the other perils into this. We are now scaling up this into a climate risk mitigation facility, which will fund not only rapid payouts but climate resilience infrastructure, pool roofs, and early warning systems, ensuring protection even in non-payout periods when the insurance doesn't trigger. This expansion will turn climate response into a sustainable
the formally organised section of this event, which brings us to our Q&A, to the opportunity for conversation that we have, I am sure, all been looking forward to. So I want to start us off with a question that has arrived via the Zoom chat. Someone is asking us how mental illness is connected to climate change, so asking to know a little bit more about the mental health impacts of climate change. I wonder if any of our panelists would like to take this question, expand on that a little bit.
I mean, from all the witnessing we have heard today, it is just very clear how it is influencing our mental health. Everyone who is awake is influenced by it. Now, this is doesn't mean it's ill to be influenced by it, but it's very important to see that it's a very strong impact on our mental health for all of us. And of course, when you have a weather extreme, when you are losing your job, when you are not knowing how you can feed your children, then it can get to an extent where it's a post-traumatic disorder, where you have anxieties for what will come, where you feel hopeless, where you will be depressed. And I think you know much better than I do that in many countries also farmers are performing suicides. And so it's a huge topic. And what I can report from Germany is that the Association of the Psychotherapists, that of the psychiatrists, of all the people researching in this area, all have joined the movement because it's such a clear case for them. So I think it's one of the major aspects. What I want to add is, I think when we are continuing on a path who is suicidal, there's also a huge spiritual illness question here, so it's interconnected, and I think you are very aware in this audience that mental illness and spiritual illness is very closely related.
Thank you so much, and I think you've really highlighted here that there's a sense of sort of direct and indirect impacts on mental health as on physical health. So there's being worried about climate change itself, and then there's being worried about all the things that derive from climate change and all the ways that families and communities are affected. Maureen, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. It's a very real thing. We are in a spiritual crisis. The climate change crisis is a spiritual crisis because it's eroded our sense of purpose and sense of future. And so that, of course, leads to anxiety, as Dr. Herrmann said, and particularly amongst young people, climate anxiety is quite strong amongst certain groups of people. And it really is because they feel they can't see a future. And that's why engagement in productive activity to help do something to mitigate against the situation we're in really then helps to bring some hope and turn around that anxiety to see that there are some possibilities. It's very important to engage young people. The other group of people who are very prone to mental stress are the negotiators, and particularly younger negotiators, because, and I've talked to some of them, and I'm talking about the negotiators at the COP conferences, because some of them know from their conscience what should be done and the decisions that should be taken, and yet they also know that they have to go with the party line of their government. Excuse me. And they're very conflicted inside, and they really go through a lot. And so all around it is causing a lot of mental health issues. Yeah.
Thank you both very much. And I want to address another question that we've received via the chat. So there's also, adding to this sense of frustration that so many of us feel around inaction, this sense of real kind of spiritual damage that's done by, feeling that there is no hope for the future. There's also a sense often that the action that is being taken is something of a sticking plaster. If we want to stay with the medical analogy, there's a question about, what can we do to address the root causes? How can we move our action towards the things that will really generate change? We've talked a little bit about some of those pathways that Dr. Herrmann was describing, but there is a kind of question here about where can we focus our energies so that we don't feel like we're spinning in place. Would anyone like to take that very difficult question?
Excuse me, sorry, I don't want to talk too much. Excuse me, I just got over some flu last week, so lingering a little. Root causes, I think, as I say, a spiritual crisis, and we have forgotten ourselves, and we've forgotten our interconnectedness and our divine connection. And this has led us to, and I don't mean to sound preachy here or anything, but generally this has led to our consumerist and materialistic way of living and being and our outlook. And so it does mean that we need a lot of, we can call it self-sacrifice, but it's not really, because when you live more simply, you actually have greater happiness, because we're trained, especially through the advertising and all of that, to think that the more you have, the more happiness you will have. And I think everyone in this room knows it's a myth, and yet we still can buy into it to a certain extent. And so I think the very first thing is our own commitment to our change in lifestyle. And that becomes an inspiration for people in our community. And then the wave. Dr. Herrmann, you spoke about a wave happening earlier you spoke about a wave happening in your presentation. But if it doesn't have the commitment of the individuals, then it won't have strength. And so I think this is really the root cause. Now, I'm not just saying, okay, fine, let's all be spiritual and it'll all be fine. We have to act, but the concept of sacred activism to me is very important. Action that is not out of anger or arrogance, but really is out of spiritual values. And that kind of sacred activism has a huge power of transformation with it. And so I think these are some of the underlying things that we really need to pay attention to if we're really going to have the fundamental shift that is really needed. It's a fundamental shift away, and our economic system needs to change fundamentally. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Yes, Dr. Amerio.
I would just like to build on what Maureen was saying. Let's listen to communities. Communities are there. They are facing the problem firsthand. Often they've got solutions. And then we bring that listening to local level, national level, regional level, international level. One of the words that was coming out more often in the survey was communities. Communities. So first, and then I want to use the word solidarity, that sometimes is like forgotten, and we just remember about solidarity when something very extreme happens. We have to be in solidarity with Caritas Bangladesh for our next extreme weather event. That is a post factum solidarity. We need to start thinking about solidarity before things happen. Because we as human beings, we are called to be in solidarity with each other before things happen and prepare. Because we know things are coming, because we know that all the things that Herrmann told us. So things will come and we need to act in solidarity before the next big emergency. That is what I think it's important. And let's listen more to our communities.
Yeah, according to Laudato Si and Pope Francis, we need to hear the cry of the earth. Look, when God created this universe, He first created not the human being, but created the sun, the moon, the trees, the animals, the water, all the water bodies, including fisheries and other necessary ingredients He added, which needed for human being. So nowadays the world is so commercial and forgotten the nature. So that's a big point to think about. We are at last, human are at last, but the universe, the nature, the atmosphere, they are our first choice to save the world. So that's.
Thank you both very much. And I wonder if there are any questions in the room that would build on some of these ideas that we're talking about, kind of preemptive solidarity that we need to be working on. How can we continue to expand on those ideas? Yes, Musamba.
Confederation across the 7 regions is that when people are forced to move, it comes with trauma, and that gets them agitated and brings about anxiety. And when we're speaking about the losses and damages that people experience as a result of floods, that also comes with trauma. And so most people they've lost their loved ones in this process, who've lost the children, and there's some countries, for example, Oceania, where they've lost even grave sites. And this has really taken a toll on the communities, maybe say who have lived in a space for over 50 years. So it's just to add to some of the issues around what mental health looks like, and more specifically when it comes to the losses and damages that communities are experiencing, and also when they're forced to move from areas where they've lived for over 100 years. Then also, just to try and marry to the COP conversations, I think under the loss and damage component, there's been a lot of push around the non-economic loss and damage. As you may be aware, that there's this fund that has been existing, and most of the conversations have been the economic loss and damages, where you can attach funds or money to monetary value. But then when it comes to the non-economic losses that happen, for example, mental well-being, it's been a struggle to try and see how negotiators could actually pledge some money which could address some of those issues. But from Caritas stories that we have on the ground, a number of Caritas actually are implementing projects that respond to mental well-being on the ground, so really more around the social protection. And so I think also as we look to COP30, some of the key asks is around ensuring that the climate finance bit is really going to be more holistic and be able to also to respond to issues to do with non-economic loss and damages, issues like mental health well-being. Yeah, so just to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Musamba, for bringing us back to the framework for today's event, which is the lead up to COP and to COP30 particularly, and also for highlighting this element that others have described, this sense that when we talk about mental health, often we're talking as well about spiritual well-being, and how deep that can run, how intergenerational those traumas can become. So thank you for that. Very interested to hear if there are any other questions from the room. Any thoughts on what we've heard today? Sister Maamalifar.
No, I'm just thinking, I don't know, as they were talking, I'm just thinking about the training of health workers. Because often health workers today, they only look at the symptoms and they treat the symptoms. They don't look into the root cause of why so-and-so is sick. What is the root cause of this disease? So my question is, how can we help the health institutions to relook at their training curriculum to incorporate the aspect of climate change that is causing health issues, that when people go, okay, they look, you are sick, and try to help the person understand the root cause so that when they go back, they try to engage in this lifestyle change we are talking about. Because if I don't understand why I'm sick, I will just continue with the same thing. Can you please throw a light on that? Thank you.
I think it's very clear from what we are hearing today, it needs to be a #1 priority in all medical teaching, in all curricula, and also in our education to the broader public. It needs to be a #1 priority. Now, when you teach this, what is very important, not just teaching the facts, but teaching for enabling the listeners, the students, to be a change agent in face of what is happening. At the beginning of the pandemic, we were able to kick off the Planetary Health Academy in Germany. We just saw a window of opportunity to have a first online lecture series. And we were surprised when we were able to get the best lecturers from around the world, from Germany, to actually teach. And when we had the first lecture, more than 2,000 people were coming. Yeah. What we did before, and I had many of these first conversations, I talked to the professors and said, it's not students. You are actually speaking to change agents. So it's very important that you structure your content in a way that enables the people to act next day. And that you are aware it's a privilege for you to speak to them because they are leading the conversation. So this has been picked up to some extent, but it is not really fully integrated into the curricula, that it's not enough to give the content. We need to have enlightened transformational change leaders taking this on, which is actually in line with the latest research on how medical education and other education should focus on, what they should focus on. So I think this is important. There's one aspect of it, which also come back to the questions we had before, that when you are not in contact with the gift of life and with the joy of being alive, even with the most severe challenges, we are alive, we can do things together. And it's very joyful to work on things that are hard together. So you get the togetherness. If we are not in touch with it, we cannot kind of get to the fire that it needs and the courage that it needs to do what is in front of us. So I think that's a very, very other important thing. What, of course, goes with it when you are in touch with the gift, it also touches you more how ignorant we are with it. So it's also very painful in between, which also means we need to be communities where it's okay to share the despair in between. Yeah, every day I see certain things, I go like, and things touch me more. The more I do this work, the more I'm touched. So it is in a way more difficult, but through the community, we can help each other to stay on course, And what is the course? To take care of our common home. And if you look out in the universe, there are not other planets which have these conditions. It's a unique, highly improbable thing. Now, I'm not talking from a theological perspective, but from an astrophysical perspective. It's highly, highly improbable that we have the situation where we can live. And we can be responsible for things. We can act with intention. So let's use this gift. And in a way, we need to reconnect with the gifts that we have in order to save the planet.
Certo, we're going to listen to a comment in Italian and then translate it. That's perfect.
I would like to thank you very much for your speeches. I very much appreciated the fact that all speakers added the topic of virtues. They spoke about responsibility, resilience, courage. All virtues were mentioned. So, as Mr. Maureen said, at the basis we find spirituality. As Dr. Herrmann said, those who lost sense of the gift have lost something essential. We all have to develop those virtues in order to then develop something around us in our community and in the entire world. And so, this is what I wanted to say. I just wanted to reflect upon this all together. Everybody spoke about the virtues, and the virtues are our main foundation to then start a real change. Thank you.
To repeat for the room, the question is, and the kind of invitation to reflection is, we've talked about these core virtues. We've talked about responsibility and resilience and these human virtues that underpin change. So perhaps this is an opportunity to come back to this sense of, change starting from these human virtues, and what can we build on that? How can we take that and move forward? If anyone wants to add anything else from the audience or from the panel, the floor is open for that reflection.
I think it's very important that when you want to get to lift virtues, it's not happening first with reflection, but it's happening through action. It's kind of really getting into where it is difficult. And for example, when I prepare for a meeting like this, I really don't know if I find the words to communicate. I struggle. So the more it is relevant, the more we have struggle. And then when I'm performing with you now, the words come. Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. I'm failing all the time. But in a way, I'm relaxing with my failing, with my being human. And in it, what I learned, what comes across more than my words and my imperfectness is why I'm doing this, what I stand for. So it's a lift virtues. It's not, sitting in large meetings and what are the virtues and these are the right. No, you should say, it's really going into life, participating in life, and then together reflecting. What was that? Why did, oh my God. Because we are also blind to ourselves. So we need each other in order to make virtues alive. A lot of companies have companies' virtues and values. Yeah? Now, if you talk to the employees, and I've done that many times, they say, oh yeah, we know this. But people are not living up to it. So it's not worth the paper that it's written on. And we all see it in a lot of places. I mean, if you look at the resolutions we have made towards climate, it's wonderful. The resolutions are great, but we're not living it. So it's really important to create spaces where it's normal to live up to the things, where we struggle with how this works, where we are also giving to ourselves and for our failing forward. We don't know exactly how this works. And there is no expert outside who will help us to find out what is the right first step in a community. It's not there. So it's really this going out, living it, and what more gets more resonance and is more kind of contagious than anything else is people who are really struggling for getting this forward.
Let me just add one other piece of the puzzle. I don't think we can stress enough that there is also a question of responsibility towards future generations. Because sometimes I think about my nephews, they are on their 20s, and what we do now and how we act now will impact their lives, maybe much more than what has impacted our lives. So for children, we should more and more put children at also children at the heart of the discussion, and thinking about them, their lives, what is going to expect to happen in their lives. And also now, when I watched the video from Caritas Bangladesh yesterday, I have to admit, maybe it's aging, but I'm sensitive. I was very emotional. And I thought all those children were, smiling at the camera, and they've got a future to live. And what are we and what is our generation doing for that future? Not to be a future as orphans, as displaced children, as vulnerable children. What is there? We have to look also into this responsibility, because I think that we talk about sustainable development, and then my question usually is sustainable for who? So I think that the discussion, at least from our part, will go on this issue of the nexus between health and climate change. And there are more answers in the survey that we did not even examine in details, so we've got work to do, but we will stay focused on this topic, that is for sure.
Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any other questions in the room, or reflections, or just things that you would like to say into the microphone.
A short comment that in the beginning it was shocking and illustrating to me, when you said that than my own experience, 15 or 20 years ago, I think there were more unity. The polarization now makes things more difficult. Even some people are mocking to our initiatives, So I would like just to say that when you said about we need actions, we need also visibility. I mean, we should not be naive. We need also visibility. It was a good experience here in Italy, was the amount of people who came out supporting Gaza and Palestine. That is where you see that not there are many people who really think in another way, but they have no possibility of talking, no? So that manifestation or that demonstration showed me that 1 million people came out silently without saying anything, no? So I feel that also we need a little bit of visibility. We need to bring out people who have the same target, even though we have different spiritualities, different religions, different ways of thinking, but at least we have one objective. So I do not know how can we also do something in this way, which I feel is important, to feel at least that there is hope, because many people in our cities now, they feel that I can do nothing. What can I do? It's a type of powerless, no? And I don't know, it's just a...
I think it's very important to get visibility. It's very important to really speak up and be out there. And I think the chances are high that if we get some of the multi-spreaders on our side, together with them, we will get the visibility. I'll give you an example. Just 1 week ago, I had a talk in the countryside of Bavaria, in a small city. And in the city hall, we had 650 people coming. They were paying for the event, and 5 weeks before, it was sold out. Why did they come? The best-known science communicator in Germany, Harald Lesch, he's a professor for astrophysics. He's talking a lot on television and so on and so forth. He has been joining us 6-7 years ago. He's now one of my best friends. Yeah? So, and he felt from the first conversation we had, he's very concerned about climate, that with climate and health, we have a new narrative. We have something new to tell. So he, together with him, we went there into the countryside, into the area where a lot of the right-wing people, get votes. 650 people were coming. They were listening for 2 hours like this. Very concentrated, very focused. This is confirming that climate is not outdated or old-fashioned. Really, people are interested. What they're looking for are settings where you have a meaningful conversation and where they get some orientation on where to start. It's not enough to just put across a difficult message and saying it's all going down the drain. This is not enough. It's really, if it's connected with the value of life, what we are here for, and that together we can shift things. Together we can shift things in our own life, and so what we get from it, kind of the wins that we get, is much higher than what we lose. Because we've already lost our future in a way if we continue the way we do. And at the end of your life, when you have consumed like hell, I mean, what do you have? There's nothing. So it's really talking about, a lot of people are waiting for it, and a lot of people are also aware that this conversation of politicians oftentimes are really very shallow. So let's get some meaning to it. What is important is that we have improbable coalitions. So it's not enough to speak as the Catholic Church or as a medical community. We need to get together with improbable partners, because then people go like, oh, that's interesting that these 2 guys show up, or that she's talking with this, and to really, because if everything is at stake, we don't have to wait for reaching out to people we normally would not go to and ask them, would you join in? Not just for us, it's for them. It's what we see with the medical community in Germany. In the beginning, they were a bit shy. Then they get into it. Then they read the evidence. Then they see, oh my God. And then it's their project. It's not my project. It's their project. It's their children. It's their grandchildren. And once you understand it's happening, I can do something about it, okay, I go.
It's been a struggle over many years to have the voice of faith communities taken seriously in the COP conferences. In fact, one of our sisters is a co-chair with someone from the World Council of Churches of the Interfaith Liaison Committee, which reports directly to UNFCCC. And now they're able to at least have input from faith communities, present something, and there's a growing awareness. But you would think that because faith communities, give many teachings about how to relate to the earth and how to preserve our planet. Secondly, faith communities actually, over 80% of the world's population subscribe to a faith. So you would think it's very obvious to include those voices, but it's not been. Gradually, it's happening. It's still not an official voice. There was a breakthrough in the COP for biodiversity in Colombia 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, where the indigenous people and local communities became an official subsidiary body, which meant that the governments have to consult them. And that was a big breakthrough. And after how many years? It's unbelievable, really. But just to say, the voices are getting through bit by bit, but it's been a struggle. The most obvious things are often a struggle to politicians, are often a struggle, and maybe it's a threat, I don't know. Maybe I was at something in London, and it's somebody who's actually head of the Greek Orthodox Church, and he was on a panel, and he said, the difference between us and politicians is that we try to tell the truth. Anyway, but, those voices are gradually being heard. Now, diet and environment was never talked about. Now it's talked about a lot. Health and environment. Now, those of us who'll be at COP, a greater awareness to bring this into our discussions and deliberations. The one thing that hasn't really had a voice yet is the amount of energy that technology takes up. It's huge. And when we're thinking about AI and the vast, I don't know what sort of computers that are being built, it's going to consume a huge amount of energy from the planet. But because of the vested interest, nobody is yet talking about it. So there are still many things that we have to do. But as I think has been said, we must not lose hope. When I got to COPs last time, to Baku, there were, just been the American elections, so everybody was in total despair. And somebody said from the platform, and I often quoted it now, despair is not a strategy. And that's it. We have to keep hope, and we have to keep moving. And with spiritual strength and with faith, we really can, the old cliche, faith moves mountains. It does. With that spiritual strength, we can have a huge impact. So, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think on that very hopeful note, we're going to draw this event towards its conclusion. I think we've just about gone as long as our interpreters possibly can go, continuously translating. So I'm going to pass the microphone to Sister Maamalifar, who is just going to give us her closing reflections, closing remarks. And then please do join us for lunch if you'd like to in the hall next door.
So, we have come to the end of a very provoking and inspiring morning. I really feel that this topic we are dealing with today is timely for us. And I hope it will help us to take this into consideration in the actions and the planning that we are going to do as individuals, as congregations, as organizations, because it is very important. Is healthy for people and for the planet. And if it isn't, we are called to a new way of agriculture. And when the one online was talking about food waste, my heart jumped, because one day I was going to work and I saw, there are these big bins, rubbish bins. It was full of bread thrown away. And I said, there are people who are hungry. I really feel that there is also a call to transformational change. And this transformational change calls for a change of lifestyle. And I think it is not just to people out there, but also to us. We have to also look at our lifestyle. How are we encouraging some of these unproductive or harmful ways that contribute to climate change? And I like this idea of the spiritual aspect, because I think spirituality for a long time has been put on the backyard. It is not important. It's the economy, it's politics. It is, I don't know what that is important. But more and more we are discovering the importance of spirituality, because spirituality helps us to not just look at ourselves, but to look at everything. And for me, I look at spirituality in terms of integral ecology. Everything is interconnected. So I think some of these calls really, I hope that when we go back, we will not just put them under the table, that we will take them up at individual level, at organizational level, and do something. And all of them talk about action. Action is very important, because St. James tells us that faith without work is dead. So let us not let our faith be dead. Let us make it alive, so that life today and the future can continue. So with these few words, I would like really to thank our, first of all, Minister, I don't remember your name now. Yes, for your opening remarks, which really opened the door for the speakers to build on that. And I thank our speakers, Dr. Herrmann, Dr. Giulia, Maureen, and Daud, for your inspire, and Mr. Kuria and Reema. Really, I feel that what each one of you has shared is very inspiring, very challenging, and also very thought-provoking. And I hope we will go back with this to do something with it. Let us not let it die. I also want to thank Sister Mary John for welcoming, because UISG has made this possible for us to be here in this nice place to listen to one another, not just in this room, but also connected with those online. And the little prayer that she said also has helped us in this, in our time together. I would like to thank the translators. Without them, we will be like the Tower of Babel. Those of you who know the story of the Tower of Babel. But at least their presence has helped us to understand one another, so that each one can go back with something from this meeting today. And I thank Giulia for her moderation. She has helped to giving back feedback to the speakers also is encouraging, and all of us, it helps us also to hear again some of the things that the speakers have mentioned. And I want to thank Lucia here, who is taking notes to help us to remember, because some of us, when you have this hair, sometimes you forget. Did I forget anyone?
Technician.
I want to thank the technician. Gianluca, you understand this hair, no? It's not intentional. So thank you so much for your help. And all those who have participated in one way or the other to make this webinar really, I call it a success, because I go with a heart full of gratitude for what we have received. And I hope that is not the last time, because this is an important topic that we need to continue with. You know, those who are not here today, next time they will be there, so that we can all hear the same thing. You know, if many of us hear, then it will help us to connect and to do something about it. Minister, thanks to your embassy for bringing this initiative, and I want to thank all our partners. You see the number of partners on the Caritas Internationalis, CLOG, German Embassy to the Holy See, UISG, UISG, JPIC Commission, all the partners who have made this possible. Thank you, and God bless you, and let us continue. Let us not make it the last time. It's the first time, but it should not be the last time. Thank you, and God bless.
Great. I think that's a wonderful note to end on.
Open and we may take a photo.
The online people are being asked to appear on screen. I think Gianluca can do that for us. Anyone who is still online can switch their video on so that we can all, I think that's the idea, stand in front of the screen and take a video of everyone who's been here this morning.
And I forgot to thank the participants. Thank you so much for being here. Without you, this will not happen. Participants online, participants in the room. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So thank you to everyone. Let's see if we can take a quick photo, and please do stay for lunch. Thank you.